Imagine you're stranded on the side of a mountain, surrounded by walls of ice, endless peaks with not another human in sight. Exhausted, hopeless, on your knees and on the verge of giving up, suddenly you feel an unexpected presence, a calm, guiding force that helps you take one more step. This eerie phenomenon is known as third man syndrome, where survivors of extreme conditions report feeling an invisible companion guiding them through their darkest moments. In today's video, we'll explore some of the most remarkable stories of this mysterious phenomenon and dive into the theories behind why, in the face of the impossible, the human mind creates a third man to help us survive. I got the inspiration from this video from one of the most recent episodes of My Favourite Murder, where Georgia covers this phenomena. She starts by telling the story of a man who finds himself trapped inside one of the burning towers during 9/11. Gasping for air and trapped between floors engulfed in flames, the man collapsed in a corridor, buried under the rubble. He suddenly felt the presence of another, who helped him up and ran back with him down many flights of stairs until he miraculously found the ground floor. Another incredible story included another who describes, "I am disabled. I was buried under the rubble for 15 hours, but I was never alone. I kept hearing from a man who said it was Michael. When I was the weakest, he would just keep talking to me." Following the rescue, the survivor found that there was nobody near them called Michael. They added, "I still wonder the voice that saved me from becoming another death on that terrible day." The third man factor happens in situations where there is an unseen presence, like a spirit, that provides comfort or support during traumatic experiences. One of the most famous examples, and where the phenomena gets its namesake from, is from Ernest Shackleton's endurance expedition, where they were attempting to cross the island of South Georgia. Shackleton and his two companions, Tom Crean and Frank Worsley, had the strong sensation of an unseen figure at their side. It seemed to be a benign guiding presence, offering a glimmer of reassurance when hope was almost lost. None of the men commented it at the time, choosing to focus instead on tackling the treacherous mountains and glaciers that stood in their path. Only afterwards were they surprised to discover they had all had the same experience. In South, his book about the expedition, Shackleton explained, "When I look back at those days, I had no doubt that Providence guided us, not only across those snowfields, but across the storm-white sea that separated Elephant Island from our landing place in South Georgia. I know that during that long and racking march of 36 hours over the unnamed mountains and glaciers of South Georgia, it seemed to me often that we were 4, not 3. I said nothing to my companions on the point, but afterwards Worsley said to me, 'Boss, I had the curious feeling on that march that there was another person with us.' Crean confessed the same idea. One feels the dearth of human words, the roughness of mortal speech, in trying to describe things intangible, but a record of our journeys would be incomplete without a reference to a subject very near to our hearts." The following lines were inspired by the account of the expedition. It was related that one of the party explorers, at the extremity of their strength, had the constant delusion that there was one more member than could actually be counted. "Who is the third who walks always beside you? When I count, there are only you and I together. When I look up at the white road, there is always another one walking beside you, gliding wrapped in a brown mantle, hooded. I don't know whether a man or woman, but who is that on the other side of you?" Coming to people's aid in life or death struggles, an article by Deseret asks, "Is third man syndrome a spiritual phenomenon or a survival mechanism?" Writer John Geiger, the author of The Third Man Factor, Surviving the Impossible, claims there are several scientific explanations for third man syndrome, such as biochemical reactions to misfiring brain activity, but he believes that a spiritual explanation makes more sense. Clearly, there is a spiritual or religious explanation to this phenomenon. Many skeptics and non-believers also had this experience, and they attribute it to other explanations, and there is certainly some very interesting science behind this. If we understand that the third man factor is a part of us, a way adrenaline is, then we can start to access it more easily. It's not a hallucination in the sense that hallucinations are disordering. This is a very helpful and orderly guide. It's an astonishing capacity if you think about it, and it sort of hints at the idea that as human beings we are never truly alone, that we have this ability to call upon this resource when we most need it in our lives. Another theory proposes that the third man syndrome is the result of the brain's natural response to danger. When faced with life-threatening situations, the brain releases chemicals that heightens our senses and increases our awareness of our surroundings. This heightened state of awareness can create the feeling that someone else is with us, even when we're alone. In some cases, the third man syndrome may be linked to spiritual or paranormal experiences. Many people who report feeling a presence describe it as a comforting or protective force, leading to some believing that it may be related to guardian angels or other supernatural beings.
I went over to Rick and he was dead, and I realized that I didn't realize I'd broken the bones, but I'd broken many of the bones in my body, had internal injuries. I was blood everywhere, and I realized where I was, and I knew that the chance of living was very slim, and I was hypothermic. And so I effectively just laid down, knowing that death was near and it would be an easier way to go.
Whilst there is no scientific evidence to support these claims, they provide a fascinating insight into ways our beliefs and experiences can shape our perceptions of the world around us.
And about the time that I began to get comfortable and warmer, there was essentially a voice over my right shoulder which said, "No, you have to try, you can't die." And at that point, from then on, for the entire day, this voice just gave me instructions. It was a presence. I could feel it over my right shoulder, but I never could, there was no images or no discussion. And it gave me information like, get that down coat, get that water bottle. And then as we moved across the valley, I would fall down and into the snow, and the voice would just say, "Okay, now make these arrows from blood from your face." And I would make these arrows from blood, and the voice would say, "In case someone skis by, they'll see you." For most of the day, we went across the valley, and it was a constant companion. We got to the valley where we had spent the night before and with a sleeping bag and a stove for, and so I got there and I realized very quickly that I wouldn't be able to get in a sleeping bag because of the injuries, and I wouldn't be able to light the stove, and that there was very little I could do. So I was sitting there just more or less waiting for the sun to go down, knowing that I would probably be dead in a few hours. But the voice was with me, and it was a companion. I was never scared. I was just there with the voice. And so I was sitting there late in the afternoon, and I thought I saw some skiers go by. So the voice asked me to call out. So I called out and I said, "Help, I'd been in an avalanche." And then as I was sitting there, the skiers were gone and the voice left. And I thought, well, that's it. The voice knew that I was dead and left me. But as it turns out, these skiers actually, they came up and they asked me if I needed help. And I know now that this voice left because it knew I was safe. I don't think I would have been able to do what I did without that help.
Spiritual or survival mechanism, I'm not sure we'll ever know, but here are some more chilling examples of when a person who's not really there has shown up to offer guidance and support. In 1985, mountaineer Joe Simpson fell into a crevasse whilst climbing the Andes. He was badly injured and believed he was going to die. During his ordeal, he reported feeling the presence of a companion who helped him to survive. The experience was later recounted in his book, Touching the Void, and his documentary of the same name is absolutely incredible and so chilling. In 2003, Harrison Okene, a Nigerian cook that capsized off the coast of Nigeria, he managed to survive for 3 days in an air pocket in the wreckage of the ship. During that time, he reported the feeling of the presence of another person who helped him to stay calm and survive until he was rescued. There are so many examples of this incredible phenomena. Is it spiritual, or are those incredible survival instincts kicking in? That's up for debate, and I'd love to know what your thoughts are. That's it for today's episode. It's a bit of a shorter one. Please shoot us a like and subscribe if you want to hear more. I put out new episodes every Tuesday, and I'll see you next time.